It's possible by the time you watch this program, Judge Jackson of the Circuit Court in Washington, D.C. will have been confirmed as a Supreme Court justice. We don't know the exact timing of the vote, but she will be the most radical justice in American history, predictably so today. And Mitt Romney, who had voted against her a year or so ago for a circuit court judge, a lower position, and Lisa Murkowski in Alaska and Susan Collins in Maine have done a grave injustice to this nation. When you have an individual who won't define a woman, she won't define a woman, it's because she intends to vote down the line with the radical left on this issue of transgenderism in Title IX, destroying Title IX for girls in schools, a law that's been around almost 60 years now, which is intended to give women an opportunity at sports throughout the public school systems, throughout colleges and universities. We spent a lot of time and money and litigation on this issue. Now it's all going to be wiped out. And if you're a woman in this country or a young girl in this country, you should be appalled, because what this movement is doing, it is degrading women and girls. You can't call a woman a woman. You're supposed to call somebody a birthing person. Isn't that a pejorative? Isn't that a damnable statement? I mean, you're not supposed to be talking about people based on whether or not they can give birth or not, are you? It's a woman. What's the problem? Woman, hear me strong. Who said Helen Redden? Remember that song? I guess we have to clear that one from the records too. But it's really quite shocking. So she is a clear vote for that. She's a clear vote of somebody who does not believe in the Constitution. How do we know that? Because when she was given a written question on whether she believes in natural rights, she said she doesn't take a position. I want you to read the first sentence of the Declaration of Independence. The first sentence. Because, ladies and gentlemen, natural rights is based on the idea that you as a human being have a natural right to live. You have a natural right to liberty. That's what it means, life, liberty. You have a natural right to pursue what interests you without interference. Now, of course, there are certain types of laws and morality questions, but what's meant by that is there's a, as de Tocqueville would put it, there's a circle of liberty around each of us that the government or no one is free to molest or penetrate. So if you don't believe in natural rights, or if you don't take a position, quote unquote, on natural rights, you are rejecting the Declaration of Independence. She's smart. She knows this. She went to Harvard. Why wouldn't she know it? And this is what undergirds the core of American society. This is what undergirds Western civilization. Free will. Unalienable rights are all tied to natural rights and natural law. I'll give you an example, and I've mentioned this before, and I've written about this. What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong, whether people adhere to it or not. You know what's right in Kansas, and you know what's right in Kiev. You know what's wrong in Rhode Island, and you know what's wrong in Iran. That doesn't mean regimes are going to comply and so forth. But as individual human beings, we know it's wrong to kill people, to rape women. We know all these things are wrong. And yet we all know the golden rule is right. How do we know this? God Almighty, that's how we know it. These are natural rights. These are eternal truths. So when she's asked, do you believe in natural rights? And she says she doesn't take a position, read your Declaration of Independence. That rejects the Declaration. It rejects the idea of a God. It rejects the idea of Western civilization. And if you believe in critical race theory, and she does, there were writings that they found in the past year since she was confirmed for the Circuit Court in Washington, D.C., in which she cites critical race theory for some Georgetown private school. She sat on the board. She promoted it. Critical race theory argues at bottom that this nation is illegitimate, that the United States Constitution and Declaration, that they're illegitimate, that this is a white dominant society that was founded on that kind of an ideology. And so everything that springs from it, the economic system, capitalism, the legal system, the Constitution, are illegitimate, and that you need to predate our history and look at 1619 when a ship landed, and you know the details. A ship landed, and there was slaves involved in that ship and so forth, and that was the founding of the United States, really effectively, of America. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. This isn't to dismiss slavery. Who's dismissing slavery? I mean, we fought a civil war over this issue. But I don't want to get into that right now. I'm just saying, if that is your mindset, on top of the fact that she's weak on child pornography, did you ever think you'd see the day where a person is promoted to the United States Supreme Court who gave weak sentences on child pornographers and those who watch child pornography? Weak sentences. I mean, it's shocking. Absolutely unbelievable. When she was a federal district judge in Washington, D.C., handing out sentences. And some of the things she said as an apologist for legal systems that wants to punish these people, were also appalling. So when you look at her record, it's a disaster. Mitt Romney says she's well within the mainstream. He spoke to her for an hour. He looked at the transcript of the hearings and he thought that she was very well qualified. The same Mitt Romney who voted against her a year ago for a lower court position. There's only 9 justices. Lisa Murkowski said, I met with her. She seems like a very nice woman. We're not voting to see if somebody's a very nice woman, a very nice man, the first black woman, the first whatever. We're voting for somebody who's going to affect your lives for 30 or 40 years, 30 or 40 years. And Susan Collins, of course, was the first out of the box. She didn't read any of the opinions. She didn't wait for the hearing. She just said she seemed like a very nice lady, that she vetted her when she met with her and interviewed her. Now, going back to Mitt Romney won't even endorse Mike Lee, his Republican colleague who's up for re-election to the Senate from Utah. He won't even endorse Mike Lee, but he endorses Jackson for the U.S. Supreme Court. And there's not a single Democrat in the U.S. Senate, not one, who's spoken out against her or who's going to vote against her. And don't give me Manchin. He's all for her. He doesn't represent West Virginia, barely. He'll throw West Virginians a crumb here and there. But everybody has to sit on their edge of their seats. Where's Manchin going to go? His ego is bigger than Gerald Nadler. It's massive. Okay, here's the morning Schmo and Mrs. Schmo with their fake background. They're in Jupiter, Florida, but there they are sitting in front of the White House. Go.
The Senate is moving forward with Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's nomination to the Supreme Court in a 53-47 vote. The full Senate voted to discharge her nomination out of the Judiciary Committee. At least 3 Republican senators have now publicly stated they will vote in favor of her final confirmation. That includes Senator Mitt Romney, who voted against Judge Jackson when she was...
These look like good post office pictures to me. Go ahead.
Confirmed to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, and Senator Lisa Murkowski, who admitted her decision could hurt her politically.
Everybody else is thinking about is, how does this play? How does this play? In fairness, I have assumed a level of risk in doing this.
She's a real head case. She got appointed to the Senate by her father. Her father leaves the Senate, becomes governor, and then appoints his daughter to the Senate. He looked far and wide. And then he realized, wait a minute. I'll appoint my daughter. This is easy. She's the best qualified. Why? She's my daughter. But it's a personal risk. She is up for election. She's being primaried. They changed the primary system in Alaska, I found out the other night, because her opponent, Chewbacca is her name, Kelly Chewbacca, who is just fantastic. She's a rising star, if not a star already, when I spoke to her. It's not that she's a big-time political operative. No, she's not. But that said, she made it abundantly clear, too. Murkowski is not representing the people of Alaska. You've got massive amounts of money pouring in from the teachers' unions, from Mitch McConnell, who's backing Murkowski. Imagine that. McConnell wouldn't back a conservative who voted against them like this. That just shows you he has no principles whatsoever. He just wants to be the Republican leader. She needs to be defeated, ladies and gentlemen. She is an absolute disaster, and she is not an establishment Republican. You know what she really is? An establishment Democrat. That's what she really is. She didn't have to work for this position. It was handed to her by her daddy. You know, like he's in business and has a small business. Here, honey, I'm handing you my Senate seat. It's really appalling. But, you know, she's taking a political risk. Of course she is. She's out of the mainstream. Go ahead.
Because it is a position that that my conference...
No. Read this. Everybody else is thinking about is, you know, how does this play? How does this play? In fairness, I assume I have assumed a level of risk in doing this because it is, and then she slows down because she wants to say, because it's a position my voters oppose, my constituents oppose. And she realizes she's putting her foot in her mouth. And then she slows down. Is a position that my conference has not taken. Nobody cares about her conference. Most people don't even know what the hell the conference is. She's voting for somebody who is clearly an extremist, a radical. And as it turns out, she has voted for almost every single judicial nominee Joe Biden has put up, much like Lindsey Graham. But even Graham's voting against this nominee. So if you oppose critical race theory, if you oppose the imposition of transgenderism on your children, if you oppose the radicalism of being weak on child pornography, for God's sakes, then you need to oppose Murkowski, because she's voting to put on the Supreme Court for her entire life Judge Jackson, who embraces all those things.
Want to see more Mark Levin? Go to levintv.com and subscribe now.